but I still have swelling and stuff.
February.
Yes,
Okay, we are
That's
rolling.
almost 6 months. Rolling.
Red light.
What's the segment called?
Red light.
Are
Red
you
light.
kidding?
What is it called?
Wait. What do you mean, what is it called?
What are we calling it?
It could be called one of the three. We can do this right now. We can call it On the Green.
Yeah, on the green.
We can call it Mosquito Coast.
What do you like? Yeah.
Because Mosquito Coast is the oldest
Right.
they used to call it. Like, this is Seacliff.
Can you turn
Mosquito
the-
Coast.
Mosquito Coast and Mosquito Cove.
I think it was Mosquito Cove. Yeah.
Okay, Mosquito
I think
Cove.
we're
Hey,
gonna
look
do
who it
on the
is.
green.
Okay.
So I think I like Mosquito Cove. Do you like that?
Well, we could do On the Green, aka Mosquito Cove, but there are no mosquitoes. That was the whole point.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
You know, we don't want to
Can I just
infer
say
mosquitoes.
something? There are very many people in Seacliff that have bat houses because they know that bats eat the mosquitoes
Yes.
in Mosquito Cove.
All right,
So-
we got it. All
There
right,
you go.
quiet on the set. We got to start.
Okay, so
Ready?
Paul Halou here, just like letting you
Hey,
know,
Paul.
Paul is
Hi.
here. He's the music behind the whole thing.
All right. Hey, Paul. How are you?
So,
It's all right. We can handle that off camera.
okay,
We're gonna get the interview in now.
okay.
Paul, you can just relax here for a minute. We'll be, we're going to go about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it'd be good for you to listen in because we're going to,
We need you to do some work for us in the future, but this is important you're here to hear this, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be somewhere though, right?
Yeah, I have a gig at about an hour and a half away from here, either by 12:30.
Feel like
10:30.
Yeah.
We'll be done in
Be
time.
done.
Good luck, guys.
Bye,
Thank
Thanks.
you. Be well. Nice meeting you. Great.
You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Now his back is like
Well, I'll keep
not
looking. Well, it's good. Like I could swivel and look at you without swiveling.
close me.
Oh, stop. Hey, why don't you
Welcome
move?
to this edition of On the Green. I'm Tim Kelly. I am joined by my co-host, the lovely.
Joan Acola. Joan
Welcome.
Nicola. Joan Nicola. Joan Nicola.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Tim Kelly. This is the first episode of On the Green. I'm in Seacliff with my lovely co-host, Joan Acola. Joan, good morning.
Good morning, Tim. How are you today?
I am wonderful. I am very excited about the show. We have as our guest this morning the Honorable Mayor of the Village of Seacliff, Ed Lieberman. Ed,
Morning.
welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Joan. How are
Morning.
you?
Very good.
Good to see
you.
both of you.
Well, it's a little warm here today, but
It
I
is.
think we'll get by. Ed, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Actually, I'm very excited about this. I think we've got a beautiful day in a beautiful village, and hopefully the people that see this will enjoy it.
I hope so.
Good.
Well, first of all, why on earth would you become a mayor in an environment
A lot of people
like we
ask
are
me
in
that.
today?
Well, that's the whole point.
Are you mentally deranged?
A lot of people have asked me that. I tell you, I never really was in politics, if you want to call being the mayor or a trustee or deputy mayor of a beautiful village politics. But I was a major in college of political science, and I went into law school and got my master's in law from NYU in criminal justice. And actually, that was during the time of, in the 1970s, having experienced graduating Great Neck South High School in 1969, the civil rights movement, the vision and vibrancy of John Kennedy as president, and of course Watergate and Students Against War. So that was my upbringing and background. So I was always, as a criminal defense attorney, I was a prosecutor.
After all this, we should just stop the segment
and-
right here.
yeah,
because
well,
we want to end on a high note.
I'm
Ed.
on
It's
a
not
high
getting
note.
any better than this. I'll just tell
I'll
you.
tell you, thank you, I appreciate it. And so, as being mayor, I think it's just, here I am.
So, this has got to be the dream job for you then. This is a historic
What?
city. It's
Thank you,
gorgeous,
yeah.
a wonderful enclave. And let me ask you though, this is a city, being a historical city.
A village.
Village, excuse
It's all right.
me. And there are not too many changes. I grew up here pretty much from high school, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not too many changes. You don't want any changes here.
Well,
So
yeah.
what do you do all day?
That's a very good question, and I'll tell you. Especially in the era of emails and social media and what have you, one email that you get can generate 6 emails. And I found from the time I became mayor, from being deputy mayor and trustee, just the emails I get every day are quadrupled. And everyone has to be answered and everyone has to be paid attention to. And I think that's very important. So, plus I walk around the village, I drive around the village.
Any of those emails have an RU?
I don't think
I
so.
can help you out with those answering emails.
No, but you could get them all. And will, I think.
Well, the only ones that I get want a date.
That's
Okay.
true. I haven't got any of those.
If you need a little help with that sending back, I can
Yeah,
help you out there.
okay. But no, I really do feel truly blessed to be the mayor of this beautiful, as you say, historic village. And we try to keep the heritage alive and keep what's traditionally been alive, and yet also have the vision of what the people in the village desire.
Great. Well, listen, aside from all that, those talking points, you
Yes.
did that very well,
Thank
by
you.
the way. So, the
Just water.
you've got just water. Where's my Bloody Mary?
3 years
Okay.
and 2 months.
You want this one?
Just water.
I'll take a little bit of that one.
Okay.
I'm going to have one of those.
Okay, don't choke.
You can give that back to Joan.
Okay.
Okay, you're gonna eat that one.
I'll be eating that one,
I'll
okay?
eat this one.
With my Tabasco. So I'm going to ask you some of the tough questions
Okay.
now. So feel free.
I take one a day.
You want to get one of these? You might need
That I haven't had.
Oh, you're going to need that.
Okay.
No, we're not going to ask any tough questions, really.
I like this one.
But so it's a historic village, not too much change. Look, some of the things that I hear is that the zoning to get stuff done is really tough. I guess that's because
Well,
of the
there are, as most villages have, planning board, a zoning board. We also have an architectural review board, and that's to keep the beautiful heritage that we have with landmarks and what have you. There are other villages that have historical districts where you can't even
You know,
paint
while we're here,
your house. What do you got down
Ed,
there?
I've got an application for just a small little
Okay.
variance. You wouldn't
Well,
mind
you
signing it
put
here,
the
would
no.
you?
What you could do is fill it out properly.
In triplicate or
Well, I don't.
duplicate?
You know what?
Birdhouse?
They have so many different rules, but we do have.
just a birdhouse,
But we
for
do
goodness
have.
sake.
No. It could be a structure. You have to watch out. What we do have, though, is a dedicated staff in Village Hall that'll help you in each step of the way.
All right, that's good.
What do we got here now? Groucho?
Ed, no, we're not going to do Groucho
Okay.
just yet.
Okay.
Tell me what your favorite part of this job is. We're going to start off with some soft questions here.
Okay. Favorite part of the
Yeah.
job is
Like,
well,
what's
you
it
know what?
like being a mayor? Do you walk around in a tuxedo?
Not a
and big
tuxedo, but I
10-gallon hat like a Monopoly
yet.
mayor?
No, I got my outfit on, and
Okay.
You're
looking pretty stylish. today.
every aspect is great, to tell you the truth. Every aspect, the good, the bad, and sometimes even the ugly.
Something sticks out in your head.
Come on, Ed.
Well, I loved ringing the Liberty Bell on July 4th. I was dedicated to writing and delivering a statement on Memorial Day, the conducting of our meetings.
Come on, you don't want to walk down the street with a big cigar
Well-
and wave to everybody, doesn't? Come on, you're the mayor.
no smoking on the sidewalk. It's bad. It's not a good image.
So,
Kids,
now, this one of the changes here on Seacliff Avenue from when
Yes.
I was younger
Yes.
is the presence of more dining establishments.
Very well said. Wait a minute. Probably an oil truck going to one of our very fine establishments.
Still burn oil here?
I don't know.
Come on,
No
is this
coal,
not
though.
Solar power?
But you know what? I believe we have a lot of solar power.
So-
And it's a good thing.
Ed, you've got
Fine
Mr. Mayor,
restaurants.
excuse me.
No, you call me.
Mr.
call me Ed,
Mayor,
that's
you've
fine.
got 5 dining establishments on Seacliff Avenue. Seem to all do quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Was that planned or?
That's a very interesting question. When I first became a trustee about 5 years ago, one of my goals was to walk up and down Seacliff Avenue, go into the commercial establishments, see what their needs were, and try to establish a more vibrant downtown. And we have certain music on the green that brought people down to the downtown area. We opened up under the administration of Bruce Kennedy when he was mayor the cabaret licenses, so there's music on several nights a week. And I think we just opened up an atmosphere where people from Seacliff especially just love the idea that there's fine dining and sometimes music, and they could enjoy
This
an
has
evening
become
with their
an enjoyable
family.
place.
Thank you.
And part of that credit needs to go to Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
He did a wonderful job by most accounts. What of his legacy do you think is most important to preserve?
Sure. So right now, as you know, we're in litigation. We're perfecting an appeal on a court decision that went unfortunately against us with regard to the waterfront development in Glen Cove. We take that very seriously as far as the future, not only to protect the environment, but as far as to keeping the North Shore of Nassau and Long Island intact. So he convinced our board that it was the right thing, and I don't think we need much convincing when I say that, but he opened up the dialogue with regard to initiating litigation in that regard, and was passionate about that, again with the commercial establishments and the cabaret licenses, and I think opened up an atmosphere of openness that we're trying
With
to
regard
continue.
And excuse me, let me interrupt, please.
You just did.
I
know.
I might do that from
Okay.
time to
Oh,
time.
it's your show, as they say.
So, as I listen to her.
Oh, I know.
Get it. With regard to the waterfront,
Yes.
so what next?
Well, as I said, so right now there were two lawsuits. One was by the village on certain specific issues surrounding the environment and the memorandum of understanding that was signed.
When was that signed?
That was approximately 2002
2002.
under the...
And explain to the audience what that meant.
So that was a document that was entitled Memorandum of Understanding. It's almost a prelude to a contract where certain parties came to the table and made certain agreements during the mayor term of Claudia Moyne. Tom Swazi was the mayor of Glen Cove at that time, and certain groups, the village, the city, and some other independent groups signed a memorandum of understanding that that waterfront would be developed, but on a limited use basis.
Okay.
So there was going to be a hotel, a convention center, almost like a Mystic
So
Seaport.
Mayor Moyne and Mayor Swazi agreed that there
Right.
would be a limited use,
Right.
or conditional use.
And then what
in the
happened is
space.
over the certain amount of years, Glen Cove kind of changed course, and now we have the possibility of 11-story buildings being built right at the shore. And we think that that's not an appropriate use of that property. It was never intended to be as such.
It's odd. It's odd.
And it's certainly an anomaly.
Right.
And we will do whatever we can and support the independent group, or individually, of course, that's also prosecuting the claim.
In so far as what you would accept there, what would that be?
Well, I think we go back to the memorandum of
There's
understanding.
400 units?
And it had, I think, a 4 or 5 story limit.
Okay.
Not 11 stories that is now being agreed to. So everybody, no one wanted to have overdevelopment. We came to the conclusion that some development was needed, was expected, and would be accepted under all the circumstances. And everybody came to the table around 2002 and agreed to that. And I think sometimes during the course of time, Glen Cove was persuaded to go another route.
Okay. Obviously, that's something that is ongoing. Mr. Mayor, if that does go, you're going to have about 3,000 more cars on the road. Do you plan to
Not
do
only would
anything?
we have those cars, Glen Cove will have those cars,
course.
Locust Valley will have those cars, Brookville through 107 will have those cars. So yes, it's right now traffic, if anyone's lived here long enough to know, traffic on even the secondary roads are congested during the day. So it's
25 minutes to get to 25A.
It's certainly, and it's 45 minutes to get to Long Island Expressway sometimes.
And I might add,
Please do.
that pedestrians that are walking their dogs, riding their bikes, children, there's on some of these roads that are a main artery from Glen
Right.
Cove to the highway, they really don't have sidewalks. Some of them
Right.
don't have
So,
sidewalks.
so what we put together under Trustee Dina Epstein's leadership is a traffic and safety committee that's made up of residents in the village who are going to be addressing traffic and safety issues, but bicyclists as well, and pedestrians and vehicles, to bring to Seacliff a calming effect. That's really our goal. If you've noticed, we have crosswalks that we've dedicated. We have stanchions, yield to pedestrians, that we put on Cliff Way, on Prospect, on Glen and Seacliff Avenue around Clifton Park. So my goal is to have people, we know there's going to be vehicles, we know there's going to be bicyclists, but we want to have the belief in Seacliff of a calming effect. No, we shouldn't be in a rush. It's a beautiful village. Take your time, and observe the rules of the road, but don't be in such a rush all the time.
Right. Well, that's common sense. Mr. Mayor, what do you see for the future? What are your big plans?
Sure. So in April, after I
I'm
was
going to get really serious.
okay, there you go. I knew it was coming, and I actually had those glasses at one time and had a little mustache. Of course, mine was a little more of a Fu Manchu.
I don't think I can handle it.
Do I have a little trim on the
and-
eyebrows here?
Start sweating.
And my nose is natural, so
I know.
Take those
We were
off
going to
now.
get there. You said you brought your own.
Looks like that
I
without
said you
Yeah.
brought your own.
but you look good there for a second.
Thank you for indulging
And I go to
me,
Joe,
Mr.
and he takes
Mayor.
care of my
I appreciate
eyebrows,
that.
which I also suggest you do.
Oh, a gratuitous plug for the local
Oh.
barber. Well done. Well done.
But let me get back to where we were. So in April, after I was inducted after the election, seriously, what I wanted to address was transparency, openness, getting our technological services up and running to full maximum speed. So I asked Deputy Mayor Kevin McGilloway, who has a background in computer science and public information officer for a large company, to head this task force, technology task force. And he's doing a great job. Trustee Deb McDermott is also involved with that. Bruce Kennedy, Mary Ann Lennon, our clerk, and about 18 or so residents. And this is a long-term approach, but we have some short-term goals also, excuse me, such as live streaming board meetings and such.
And how about
So-
for the rest? I mean, that's from a
So that was
transparency-
one of the first things we
Mr.
did.
Mayor, look, I'm going to ask you a question that's been asked. It's on social media. Give you an opportunity to put it to rest in your own words. There was some question about Mayor Kennedy taking the administrator job. I see him around the neighborhood. I see him as a capable administrator in his position as mayor. There's some question about whether he should have taken the job or not. Can you
Sure.
just put that to rest?
Sure. As we've indicated this both in print and verbally at meetings, and I have no problem going over it again. The village administrator, who basically runs the day-to-day operations of the village, when it comes to the nuts and bolts aspect, DPW, assessment, and as such, he resigned in November for a different job in a different municipality. So we were then on a search with regard to replacements. We received several resumes, and at one point in the conversation, the board, and I have to step back. Mr. Kennedy had been mayor. He was fulfilling his 8th year as mayor. I think he was at the point where he was ready to take a step back from that position. And basically the board asked him, given that scenario, whether he would be in consideration for it. And when that occurred, the board then, he took on a resignation. The board, pursuant to New York state law, had the ability to appoint a mayor. And under New York state law, I might add, even though I was the deputy mayor at the time, anyone could be appointed. And then the board would approve that appointment. So I was nominated, the board approved me to then be the mayor. And this goes back, I believe, at the end of November of 2016. I then, as mayor, had the ability, no, not yet. Very good though. No, but I'll take the mask. Had the ability to appoint the village administrator, at which point I,
Won't take a minute.
with the board's approval, appointed Mr. Kennedy,
Okay.
as we felt was the best candidate for the job.
Great.
And I think it's, once we get past that, I think it's working out just wonderfully.
Okay, great. Well, and by the way, congratulations
thank you.
on your appointment.
And I just might add, just to follow that up, so that appointment was for the period from the end of November to the beginning of April. I was elected then on my own right in April, at which point I appointed, as well as the other staff members, Mr. Kennedy to the village administrator. And once again, the board, sitting as a new board, approved that appointment.
Okay. Well, thanks for explaining that.
Sure.
I appreciate that. So we have the.
And I don't need these either. I don't think.
You're done with
Nah.
that. You've had yours
Yeah.
today. Okay.
I had
Put those
I take
over
a
here.
baby aspirin
The
every
enteric.
morning.
Great. I take some Tabasco. every
Okay.
morning. Joan, do
Yeah.
you have any questions for our mayor here?
I have a couple. I know that this is like summer season, right? So
Yes.
full swing.
Full swing.
So that means
My first summer season also as
I
mayor.
want to know, like, what? First of all, I want to know one simple question, like,
Yes.
when did you move to Seacliff?
Oh,
And
sure.
Of course, how did you
How
find
to
out
find-
about
You know,
Seacliff?
that's a great. No, I have to tell you, it's a great
'Cause I ask
question.
that all the time,
because-
You feel terrible.
No,
I
you're
know,
learning.
I really do
But I
ask
think
it all
that's
the
very
time.
good
I wanna
because
know.
I go to all the newcomers events that Andy Pietro and the Civic Association have, and that's one of the first questions I ask. I say, how'd you find Seacliff? So I'm going to tell you,
How did you
I
find
found
Seacliff?
Seacliff? I grew up, as I told you, in Great Neck, and we made our way. My wife comes from Roslyn, so we're familiar with the North Shore of this beautiful county, and we ended up in Glen Head, basically for the schools, the North Shore schools. We had young children, and they were entering the school district, so that was our main focus. And we ended up in a new house in a new development in Glen Head. And I really didn't know about Seacliff. This was about 1982. And was very relaxed one day on my back deck in the swing. I was enjoying myself, and my wife came home. And said, honey, we're moving to Seacliff. And that's a true story. She had found a house that had a beautiful view of the harbor.
So we now know who wears the pants in the family.
And not only that, we're living in our new house because she liked that house too. So
Wonderful.
after 40-something years of marriage, you understand that that's always the best way. But she found Seacliff. She knew about Seacliff because when she was in Roslyn, she used to come here in her high school days.
Seacliff and Roslyn are very
And
close to
in Great Neck, of course, this would be the end of the world. So I didn't have that luxury of finding Seacliff when I was younger.
Right. Hey, you know,
And then-
speaking of the end of the world, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to finish off. So we moved here, it was about 1994.
Okay.
Yeah.
94. So you would be what we call a newbie.
I would be a newbie. I
And you
guess
know
it's
what's
20-something years, you know.
And you know what's interesting? I am a newbie when you put it into relation to the 1900s.
Sure, because I tell people that
I'm
this
an old
is-
bee.
Yeah, third generation people live here, and we have new people coming from, all over. So there's a great mix of, and that's what I'm talking about. That Seacliff heritage. That's great.
What's the hardest part about keeping that heritage in a growing community, in a community that's growing in
Sure.
so many different ways?
Sure. Well, thankfully, we have so many people that are dedicated to just even the structures. That's when we talk about the Architectural Review Board or the Planning Board, because they want to have a consensus approach to keeping that heritage. We have the Landmarks Association, the Landmarks Commission that keeps those things,
Could you
in
list
the
a
forefront
couple
of
of those?
those.
Like there's a beautification committee.
Sure, we have so
there's-
many volunteer groups in Seacliff, and that's one of the unique things about Seacliff. You have your beautification committee that takes care of our parks. When I say takes care of, these are all volunteer groups. You'll see them tending to the Centennial Park or Memorial Park and just do great things. The Flutterby Foundation that now does the butterfly gardens at Martin
that.
Triangle.
That's
It's a
really
new
great.
approach that we, as the board, endorsed wholeheartedly.
Right.
You have the Seacliff Civic Association that puts on so many great events.
No,
There's a couple of events
there's
coming up,
a
too.
civic mindedness in
Absolutely.
Seacliff that you don't find in many communities.
And I think when I see people and I tell people now that I'm the mayor of Seacliff, they glow because they may have been here for dinner one night or something, and the first thing that they say is, "Oh, I love Seacliff. It's so unique. It's so
I'm going
beautiful."
to steal some of Joan's time.
Go ahead.
Okay, speaking of growth
I'm just
and
listening.
structures,
I'm like comedy relief.
She's like the Ed McMahon here. Come on.
I have my own questions coming.
Mr. Mayor, speaking of growth and structures, Seacliff in a way is shrinking, and there is and this is just an observation out on the
Promenade?
peninsula. Well, not really the promenade, but there are some structures. There was a landslide into the harbor, and those homes
Yes.
are now threatened. Is that going to expand? What's
Sure.
happening over there? That looks like it's getting worse.
Well, I will say this, that we've gone through this very diligently to make sure, and I have to tell you, it's not the village as much as Department of Environmental Conservation of the state that has oversees what can be done there with regard to anything, okay, because it's on the shoreline. So we're at the process now, and I believe even last night, the planning board of the village is at the final stages of agreeing to a particular process that will now shore up that avenue so that the homes that are on the sides of where that occurred several years ago will now be protected.
There was one home that's is it
That
condemned?
it's been
Is it
it's
done?
been condemned to the extent of by the village that it could not be
Occupied.
couldn't be occupied or anyone living there because of the
I have a
situation.
question about that. That bringing Seacliff back to like being that it's an enclave and it's such a beautiful shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
How and having to shore up that whole side.
Won't be the whole side; it would be a portion of
Would
that.
it be interesting though if that was part of a bigger picture where that if you shored up the entire shoreline that we could actually bring back the promenade that goes all the way to Tappan's Beach?
And of course, that promenade that you talk about was wiped out,
Wiped out
in the
in the
hurricane of I
hurricane.
think 38.
Right.
That would be 1938.
But wouldn't that be a great picture for Seacliff in the future for growth? I mean, in terms of like, what you could
Anything
bring-
is possible, but unfortunately, the financial aspect of anything that we do is paramount
Wouldn't we
as well.
siphon all that money that's going in the wrong place and bring it over here?
Well, then we would have to get the corporations here, and I don't know if we wanted that
No,
in
we don't want
Seacliff,
that.
right?
No, but
So it's
that's
a
a
balance,
beautiful-
believe
Funded it?
me.
Who
It's
funded
too-
the promenade to begin with?
Back in the 1930s?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was made of wood,
It was wood.
and that's why it no longer is here.
It was
And then, of course, you have, but in past administrations, that's what the promenade by the beach was done with the walkways and the benches and the lighting. So we have come back from something that we didn't have, and I believe that was under several administrations. So it was a long process, but it was something that's accomplished. And now, people come and residents go down for sunsets or they walk there. So we have a lot of activity. People are using it, and it's something. Of course, the vision is great.
yeah, it's
It's a
a
great
I'd
vision.
like to see that happen.
Yeah.
And if it takes like 50 years to do it, I
Yeah.
think it's possible. But on a lighter note, I'm just going to take a bite.
Okay, don't choke. Okay.
That sounds so good. That sounds so healthy and so good.
And
have
So
another-
Seacliff.
and
So
fresh.
here's
Exactly.
a quick question for you.
You can get that at the farmers market, maybe.
You're right. Oh, that's another wonderful
Sure.
thing. We have some great things. So give us a little bit more like what's happening as far as events coming up. I know this is like
So
something
we
happening.
have a Friday night concert series at the beach, which is open to the public. We have a great lineup. Our events committee, that's headed by Justin and Jenna DiPietro, gets all the bands set up, and
They're on the Seacliff Beach Committee?
it's a Seacliff Beach Events Coordinating Committee,
Okay.
not the same as the old Beach Committee, two separate entities.
Okay.
What's the difference between those two?
Well, I believe the Beach Committee was a 501c3 independent fundraising group, and the Events Coordinating Committee is appointed by the mayor with the board's approval to coordinate specific events at the beach.
Does one have to be separate from the other? Can they work both together, or is that something?
Well, they
that-
could work, sure. Cooperation, working together is always good.
Imagine that.
Imagine.
Imagine.
Just
That's
breaking
all-
new ground here.
Well,
Imagine.
only in Seacliff.
Imagine on the green.
We could
That's
start it right here.
Imagine on the green.
All right, so now I'm going to get back to the serious question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what's your favorite restaurant here? Come on.
I don't know if I can
not
say
avoid
that.
Yeah, we
that.
have a lot of
Come
favorites
on.
coming.
We have a lot of favorites.
Okay, so
I mean-
your favorite meal from one of
Wow,
them.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. Now you got
No,
to.
you're letting them
No,
off the
no,
hook.
no.
No,
I'm gonna-
we should be able
she's
to guess
good.
where it's
Oh,
from.
okay. So if
We'll
you
talk
said
meal
if
and
you
we'll
said
guess.
hamburger,
Oh, but
see, she's.
I'm sorry. I just happened to have a hamburger the other day, and it was the best hamburger I ever had.
See?
And it's funny that you said it.
Okay.
because I don't
Well, everybody
know.
eats hamburger,
And
right?
it just happened to
Maybe.
be at the Metropolitan Bistro.
Okay, they have a great burger.
They
I
have a
think
great
theirs is
burger.
called the Fancy Burger.
It's delicious.
They have a good burger
They
at
do.
Partners too.
Partners has a great
And
burger.
Gallagher's has a
So
good burger.
Yeah.
maybe we
no,
should
they're
have a
all good.
burger eat-off one.
And Oak
Can I
has
have
a good burger.
Can I have
Oak
a
has a great
501c3
burger.
Events part?
You know,
I like the giant English muffin.
the muffin,
roll.
the English
The
muffin
English
on a
muffin
burger.
roll at-
There is something
at
to say
Partners,
about that.
works.
I
Okay.
agree.
We can
Next.
plug
Gallagher's has a
something.
great
I think we can
burger.
plug something
Yeah.
at every one of these. And
I
that
think
was
I think a burger night on all the
a
restaurants.
burger night on
Yeah.
all the restaurants. Is a
burger
great
off.
idea.
A burger
But
off.
no, the thing is, you can't eat 5 burgers.
Burgermeister, I think in
Meister
German
You can
Burgers.
is.
taste a little chili from each place,
Meister
but you
burger.
can't. Maybe burger sliders, and you can go have one
there's
or.
something that you just like. there's this
Two-handed
thing,
burger?
You know, right?
Right, and the
You don't eat a burger with a knife.
So
and
the
a
burger
fork.
sliders is out.
Yeah, why would you wanna
you
block
got to
it?
get the whole thing for the testing. If you're going to test, you got to
Okay,
have the
what's
whole
an-
thing.
What's another question for the favorites?
But there are so many
What's
favorites,
your favorite
really.
color? The children want to know.
Color, probably
You're not wearing it.
Blue.
Blue?
Yeah,
Blue?
blue.
Okay, children of the Seacliff
I'm not-
community.
I'm not really
Blue
into-
is the mayor's
Are we
favorite
at the
color.
favorite color?
I'm not
Is that
really
where
in my
we're at?
green-
Are we
greens
running
are
out
not
of
I don't know.
questions?
No, we're not.
I like
because
pink
I have a lot
also.
of questions. You just started
What's
it
in
with
your
the favorite.
drink?
I like pink also. My
You
drink,
started
water.
I didn't start
No,
it.
you
I
started
started
3
with
years,
favorite
3 months.
restaurant.
favorite restaurant.
All right. So.
They're all great restaurants,
The
and
sun is
they have.
peering over this. The sun
All right, Mr. Mayor. Now you're really sounding very politically correct. Now you're sounding like a mayor.
Like
They're
a mayor,
all great
huh?
restaurants.
Right, everything's, they're all great colors.
I watch a lot of
Colors
Morning
in
Joe.
between. The rainbow.
Exactly.
Right,
well
Nika?
done.
Okay.
Well done. So, and we haven't even mentioned your party affiliation. Do we
That's
wanna
right.
talk
That's
about
very
the
interesting.
party? We
Yeah.
don't care. We don't care.
You mean
Actually,
political
we're-
party or
Yeah, you're-
fun party?
Well,
Political
Well,
party.
what
Let me
is
tell you.
party?
yeah,
I'm
talk
gonna.
about the political party.
Well, I'll be
We'll
more
go
than
fun
happy to
party.
tell
I
you.
really just want to know when the party is.
I know the party is.
Every day.
I'm a registered independent, not Independence Party, independent. I've been at non-affiliated registration since 1978. My first presidential election was 1972. That was Richard Nixon on the Republican side for re-election, and George McGovern from South Dakota on the Democrat side. Do you remember that election?
I do, but I was a bit younger.
McGovern,
You're wearing the diaper.
McGovern won the state of Massachusetts and
Okay,
Washington,
I don't
D.C. He didn't even win his own home state. It was a landslide. But unfortunately for President Nixon, there was that Watergate thing that
thing.
occurred.
Let's just call it the thing.
Yeah, that thing.
So,
I'm
James
coming in.
Madison.
Come on in.
You know what? The sun is in my face. The
Do you wanna, like-
The sun is in my
So,
eyes.
Should I move
Mayor,
over?
No.
Okay.
When James Madison was president, who
Yes.
did you vote for then?
I'm not that old, but I will tell you this. So I'm going to go tell you about the independent thing. After I mentioned I was on the losing side in the 1972 election. I got a position appointed as an assistant district attorney, as a prosecutor in the Nassau County District Attorney's Office.
What year was that?
That was 1978.
78.
And I was my term was 4 years, and I was appointed by Dennis Dillon, who was the DA at the time, who was a protege of Robert Kennedy, worked in his organized crime task force.
Dylan was our district attorney
for a long time.
Eons.
In fact, he switched.
My brother
he
worked
switched
for him.
parties back in the 80s over the
My
abortion
brother was
issue.
in the DA's office
Really?
as well,
Well,
after you.
We might know each. I
Dennis
know you.
Kelly.
I know that name.
Okay.
Yes,
we'll
there you
talk
go.
about that.
That's a
very
small
funny.
world.
Well, we live on an island, but this is true. Yeah, that's what I tell people. We live on an island. But I ended up doing well. Mr. Dillon came in after a corruption indictment of the preceding district attorney. Federal indictment, convicted, went to prison, and he wanted to have.
It's going around.
Say, things don't change, huh?
It's going
and he wanted
around.
to have an apolitical district attorney's office. I was doing official corruption and special investigations at that point. And I immediately went over to the Board of Elections, which is across the street from the courthouse, and filed as an independent. And I stayed that way, and it seems to be in vogue right now.
Everybody's doing it.
You know, Morning Joe just did it.
Morning, Joe.
George Will did it. So
Well,
I always-
think we're all a little frustrated with not only the two-party system, but the media around it. That's one of the reasons we didn't go into the politics side of it
Right.
today. So,
And I don't feel I'm in politics per se, being the mayor. You know, in the villages, most villages, if not all, in Nassau County, and there's 64 of them, don't have Republican, Democrat, traditional parties running. They usually have a village party, and whatever the nomenclature is. So we try to stay away from partisan politics in a village. It's very important that we as residents come together for those specific needs of the general welfare of the residents, and we don't want politics to get
There's a name for that. Isn't
involved
there a
in that.
name for that? The Civic Progressive Party? Is that what it's called?
Well, there is a Civic Progress Party.
Progress
There's
Party?
other parties. There's the Open Government Party.
So
There's
what
been
is
the
what is
Alliance
Civic-
Party.
What is the Civic Progress Party exactly?
From my understanding, they got together around 1947 and became, in their own words, a vetting group of individuals.
Is it still functioning today? Do
Um,
you still meet? Do they meetings?
I have no idea.
Oh, that's a great
It's
question.
a great question.
That's lovely. You got any more?
Good though.
So why don't we, Mr. Mayor, you've been really generous with your time.
Thank you.
I wonder if Joan has any other
I have a
questions.
couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Are they going to be
Yeah.
as good as the last one?
With the crunch?
Sorry, Joan.
That was really not
I
nice.
know it's.
Do you want me to?
That's my job.
Do you want me to leave?
This is why he needs me around.
Okay.
Slap him
I know.
like this.
Would you rather sit here so
No.
you could
Matters.
slap him?
There is a couple of things
Okay.
I
That's
do
why we
want to
put
ask
you in
you.
between.
I've
Good.
known. How long have I known you, Ed?
Years,
Okay,
Where,
getting
where
better.
do you think?
decades.
Where was the first time we met?
I don't know.
I think I met you. Maybe. I think I might have mistaken you for somebody.
Possibly.
Maybe his name was Joe the Barber.
That happens a lot, by the way. Oh, that's right. That was great. Thank you for bringing that up.
I
That's one of
think-
my favorite nights.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of
I
the
don't know if-
characters that you've put on with?
I think
through the years?
I may not have been a trustee yet, and that's why I could get away with it. I don't know if
Do you
I
think
would
you
do it
can still
now.
get away with
I
that?
don't know. People's very sensitive. What do you got for me?
Do you think?
Well-
do you think we could like bring this out and
That
see if
would-
we would?
That's when I think I went as Terry.
Terry.
Wait.
Wait, let's.
I won't-
explain
I
that.
don't wanna
Explain
wear
this.
it, but-
you went
Can
to.
So I will. Without putting it on, I'll be more than happy to tell you.
I'm just.
No,
Can you
no.
tell us a little
I
bit
had
how
a-
that
and
happened?
then
I'm
we
gonna tell
gotta
you.
go. We have a special guest
I had
here today.
I had an idea of dressing as Joe the Barber one year as Terry. And,
Terry who?
Terry
Terry
Schuber.
Schuber. Who is Terry?
Terry's a real estate broker.
Real-
Yes.
Yeah, great.
And Joe the Barber happens to be my barber. And for Halloween, which Joan, I know you love.
I love Halloween. I think,
I think
it's
it's one
another
of-
holiday in this
It's one of
community.
your favorites.
And I know that
And you know, it's. I think the people in in Seacliff love Halloween.
it's a great opportunity for us to
they
parade
are a
around.
bunch of
I also
freaks.
won one year as a Victorian movie producer. Do you remember that one?
No.
And it was very foggy out after all the parties, and I was walking the streets of
Did
Seacliff,
someone take a picture of you?
and it's freaked out a few people because I look like
A spooky guy?
a Victorian movie producer in a fog.
No, I really love.
But yeah, one year I went as Joe the barber, and people could come up to me and thought I was Joe.
You take on that
Yeah.
persona so well.
Thank you.
And the thing is,
But I haven't dressed up
It doesn't-
other than this.
I know,
recently.
but this is what I'm getting at because.
Should I come back?
Yes,
What do you
I think there
think?
needs to be a comeback.
But one of the great things in Seacliff is what's Joni going to be this year, because it's usually a group effort, and they
I
come
think
up with some
maybe-
great
Would you be
things.
interested in being
Joining
part
the
of that
group?
effort?
It depends.
Uh,
I never
We're
sing
doing a girl band this year.
Oh boy.
some of my best gigs.
Ed,
What can I tell
you're
you?
on your own. You're on your own from here. That's
no,
it.
really,
You know,
I'd love to put it out there.
Oh, well.
Really love to invite you to
The good thing
it
is
could be a
it's,
group
it's
effort.
the
It
good
will-
with the good thing. It's 4 months away.
Yes, and I always.
But it's right around the
And you
corner.
know what? I always
We're already
think of
planning
it
for
the
Mini Mart,
day-
so
yes,
it's right around the
it's gonna
corner.
Be so
Sure.
exciting. Tell us a little bit about
Mini Mart
this-
this year. What I'm going to do? Well, actually, as non-mayor, I do have another life. I invited back again Abe Lincoln
Oh, good.
to walk the streets. The kids love that, and he's a.
Isn't there
grew up-
Theodore Roosevelt as well?
There's Teddy Roosevelt
Teddy?
who joined us last year.
But there's the trifecta, though. We have to have a third president.
Well,
Isn't that somebody else? Maybe
I don't know. We'll think
Lincoln?
about it.
No,
well, we
not
have
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Not Lincoln.
Well, we go right from
George
Mount.
Washington.
We could go right
How
from
about
Mount
George?
Rushmore. Yeah.
George?
George or Thomas Jefferson, but Hamilton's big, so we could have him too. But he
That's
wasn't
great.
president.
Did you know all these guys personally?
No, but I have read a lot about the founding fathers. I thought I'd throw that in
Thank you.
gratuitously.
All right. So yes, gratuitously.
Yes,
But that's okay. You're
Good.
the mayor, and you're
Well,
allowed to do that.
I could do a lot of gratuitous.
Well, this is, we
What
have a
else you
couple
got?
of things. I mean,
Okay.
Well, we need a nomination, and unless you've got some
Well-
more, we.
What
no,
else
I
you
think
got?
you've covered a lot of really good stuff,
Yeah?
Tim.
Yeah, I think his questions are
and
pretty
our
good there.
producer here
Who's that?
has. You're
I'm the
sitting next to her.
Oh, God.
That's
How
my
do you
boss.
think this happened?
I thought you were Ed
That's my
McMahon or Mia.
That's why I'm
No,
so well
I'm a little bit
behaved.
more than that. Here, let's put.
Okay.
I'll become.
Oh,
I'll become.
Sheba.
It kind of goes with my new
Oh, that's
hairstyle. Right? This is
sure. Marie
when-
Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette. In fact, you know who was Marie
You
Antoinette?
know, I had a little thing for
Do
Marie
you?
Antoinette.
Yeah.
Stop.
Hush. Cut it off. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so.
No one got the cut it off joke. Okay.
No, we have a question though. We do have a
Thank you.
question for you.
Yes.
First of all, we have a little gift for you.
Oh, really?
It's a parting gift.
gift.
Is it a? I could see by the hat. I'm going to give this to my. Is it all right if I give it to my grandchildren?
Yes, because it's
That's
it's
great.
a one of a kind, never been seen before.
But you gotta use it.
Antique. It's 100 years old.
Ooh,
we found
I
it
don't
in
wanna-
a- No, I'm kidding. No, it's okay. Basically,
You got it at the
it's-
Offbeat
it's a-
Artifact sale.
A couple.
It's a little.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
look, I'll show you.
Okay.
It's very famous.
And the bag is very festive
This
too.
is not your usual.
Save the octopus.
This is what they call a Greek gift. This is a
Oh, I don't know
re-gift.
if I'm allowed to take it.
Yes, you can.
You
Why is he
sure?
wearing a scarf? It's 90 degrees.
Because it's a
It's-
re-gift. It's from Christmas.
it's re-gift.
It's a kiss.
And it's
gift.
50% off.
I tell you, the budget on this program.
Wait, I just want to make sure if there's anything else in here. Okay.
So Ed, look.
My
this
application
is
for a permit in there.
patented version. You
sure.
cannot find these anywhere else but
Okay, go
Germany. Oh, let's
Oh.
try it again.
Okay.
Oh, I could do so
okay.
much
I
with
know.
this right now.
There you go. Hey! I feel like Lawrence Welk.
Wait, do it again. Do it again, because the bear
Only
was
the old
looking at
people.
the camera.
Oh,
The
jeez.
bear has to look at
Only,
the camera. How
only
do I
the
do
older
this? Hold
people.
on.
There you go. There, she knows how to do that. Great.
Oh,
Good
that's
job.
good.
Good job.
I
My
spilled
grandchildren
all
will
over
love
me.
that. Thank
It's
you.
spilling all over me. I
Well,
squeezed that you had.
No spillage.
All right.
Boy, my career is on just a
That's all right.
rocket path here.
You have no
If you're
idea.
Blowing my
Bu-
bubbles in my
bubbles.
face.
All right, put it back in the bag.
Okay, it's a little.
All right, so Ed,
In the octopus
the
bag.
last
Close
question.
the
Great. There you
segment
go.
here.
I'm going to keep that right here. Thank
when we
you.
close the segment, we're going to ask you to nominate
Oh,
Joan.
Joan.
What do you want to
Okay,
explain?
so yeah, very simply,
Sure.
at the end of each segment,
Mhm.
just like any challenge, we have a question that
Yeah.
says to you, posed to you.
Sure.
That says, asks you, who would you like to see next up on the green?
That's a great.
And there's no real criteria other than
Yeah.
it has to be someone of Seacliff
Yeah.
variation.
So let's have the Civic Association,
One person-
Ann DiPietro.
One person?
Ann DiPietro.
And DiPietro.
And
She can let you know
And
all
DiPietro.
the
Will you accept the challenge?
the library
From
and
our
Civic
esteemed mayor.
Association. She's got all the children's events down at the beach, sing along and reading. She could let the residents know all about the great events and.
Outstanding.
That's a very
Mr.
good-
Mayor, it's a pleasure.
My pleasure.
for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Good handshake.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ed.
Oh,
So
thank
good.
you.
Now, Ed, okay, so we're going to cut from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce, we're going to have a musical guest here. Thank you.
I'm not sure what you want, but
No.
Okay.
Because you're so good listening into what we just did, I know that you'll be able to come up with a jingle.
Ah, jingle.
I want to show you guys something. You're
Okay.
talking about the Glen Cove development. Years ago, I wrote for the New York Times.
Okay.
The first article I got in there, I was driving in Garden City. For years, behind the Garden City Hotel, it was a dirt lot for years. They were fighting over it. Finally, they started building something. And I look up and I noticed this hideous thing, the Wyndham condominium. Like these ugly green machine rooms and all that. So I wrote this just out of my own sense of chagrin. I wrote this article comparing them to something the Blockheads would build from the Gumby episode.
Can you send it to Ed
So yeah, I will.
I love it.
So
and Tim?
I sent it to them, and my surprise, one time I came home, the New York Times called. So they printed it a third of the page. Is there any way to stop the Blockheads from taking over?
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's great. Send
Great.
it to
Nicely done.
Send it to all
Nicely
of us.
done.
But they have the last laugh
Blockheads.
because now those units are full.
Forgot those
and my
scary.
parents are moved into one.
Your
So,
parents have moved into
Yeah.
one? That's crazy.
Karma.
oh, the
That is
humanity
karma.
of it all.
Oh
And it's
my
gone
God,
up in
it's
value,
terrible.
probably.
That's awful.
So,
Oh, God.
last name, Paul.
Oh, Paul Halou. Paul, bring out your guitar.
So,
Alright.
Ed, I'm going to ask you to unclasp your
Sure.
thing there, and we're going to let Paul come sit. Paul, you're going to sit here because I have the microphone on
Maybe
here.
I should, so usually the guest gets up and then a new
Yes.
guest comes
Okay.
in. Is
Right.
that how it works? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank
And-
you.
And that was
appreciate it.
fabulous. That was
Fantastic. Thank
fabulous.
you so
Thanks so
much.
much for being a good sport about all that.
Oh, yes. Watch yourself. A lot of
Yeah,
wires
you're
around here.
you're wired up, so
Wired
you
up.
gotta
So we're
stay.
doing a duet or
How many
what?
grandchildren do you have?
No, I'm going to get up. I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to get up.
Because it's better if I do something with somebody.
Me. Well, it could be Ed.
You want to sing one?
Yeah,
You wanna do it with Ed?
I think Ed.
No, we'll just talk
Ed,
singing.
Ed, sit down. He's great. Trust me. He's great.
All right, so I'm gonna give you my chair because it's an open microphone here.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Paul, you just stand over here,
Okay.
off camera, and then I'm going to introduce you, and then
Okay.
I'm going to get up.
Okay, I'm going to sit down.
So I don't have my
Look at this.
No, it's all right. Mr. Mayor, we have a special musical guest,
Great.
a resident of Seacliff, Paul Halou. I'm going to give him my seat.
All right. Hi,
Thank
Paul.
you.
How are you?
How are you doing?
Great.
Okay. I figured we'd sing a little blues today.
Good.
Just a little blues on this beautiful morning here in Seacliff. The name of this blues is called On the Green. On the Green.
I got a dream.
You got a dream.
On the green.
On the green.
What a dream.
What a dream. There's a hamburger every 10 feet in Seacliff.
Some on a muffin. Some fancy. Some not. But all very good. In secret.
Some of the establishments take your credit card.
Some don't.
Yeah. Some take cash. That's not very hard to come up with.
Number 3.
free.
Don't you want to hear that?
But the joy is free. The community is free.
Happiness.
You can get a book for 50 cents in the library. Or the library, as we used to call it as kids, you know.
Sailing club. Good job. Little kids, big kids. In the water. Teamwork,
Nice.
always good.
You can even get a cappuccino, cafe latte. Over at the bistro. There's two places called the bistro, right? There's the Metropolitan Bistro. Yes. I'll meet you at the bistro. Which bistro are you talking about? So if you're down at the beach and you're looking over at the beautiful view, what do? You relax, have a... Maybe you get the nice Greek salad from the vendors right there on the beach, right? But when you look over the other side there, all the way at Glen Cove,
Well, we like Glen Cove.
we like Glen Cove, but we
like
think
the people in Glen Cove.
we like the people in Glen Cove, but
We like the view.
we like the view in Glen Cove, but we
But
think
we don't want to have 11-story buildings in Glen Cove.
Thanks for
because
joining
they got
us,
the
everybody.
That I
overdevelopment
can tell you.
blues.
We'll be back with another episode. This is The Green.
Yeah, they got the overdevelopment blues. Sing it with me, Mayor. Come on, overdevelopment blues. Development blues. They got the overdevelopment blues. Overdevelopment blues on steroids. Overdevelopment blues. I almost said overdevelopment boobs. You know, they don't really need
No
a
booze. 3 years, 3
booze.
months.
Thank you all.
Outstanding, guys.
All right.
That was fun.
Overdevelopment blues.
I was going overdevelopment boobs.
No booze.
The overdeveloped